The hidden psychology of disrespect. Most people interpret disrespect emotionally. The Stoic interprets it structurally. Conflict rarely begins with physical aggression. It usually begins through emotional testing. A dismissive tone, an interruption, or a mocking remark often serves a deeper purpose. Measuring psychological influence, the average person experiences disrespect personally. The Stoic observes the mechanism underneath it, because the moment behavior becomes reactive, emotional control quietly shifts to the other person. What most individuals call defending themselves is often unconscious participation in another person's emotional agenda. Stoicism begins with a disturbing observation. People are easier to control through emotion than through force. This is why Stoics analyze conflict differently. They do not immediately ask whether disrespect feels unfair. They ask why another person requires emotional movement in order to feel psychologically effective, and that question changes the entire meaning of conflict. Chapter 2: Why emotional reactions reduce authority. Most people assume emotional intensity communicates strength. Psychologically, it often communicates vulnerability. In social environments, emotional reactions expose dependence on external conditions. The louder the reaction becomes, the more visible the loss of internal regulation appears. Social psychology shows that people unconsciously associate self-control with authority. A composed person appears psychologically difficult to manipulate. This is why calmness changes social perception. Stoics believed emotional impulsiveness was dangerous not because emotion itself was weakness, but because uncontrolled reaction revealed that external conditions had gained access to internal stability. A reactive person becomes predictable. A composed person becomes difficult to control, and unpredictability changes power dynamics immediately. Most individuals expect emotional reciprocity during conflict, anger, defensiveness, escalation. When those reactions fail to appear, the structure of the interaction changes. This is why Stoic calmness is often misunderstood. Emotionally impulsive people frequently mistake composure for passivity because they associate visible emotional movement with strength. But Stoicism defines strength differently. Control over others may appear impressive. Control over oneself appears dangerous. Chapter 3: The Stoic separation between event and interpretation. Ethic introduced one of the central ideas of Stoic psychology. People are disturbed not by events themselves, but by their interpretation of those events. This completely restructures conflict. Most individuals experience disrespect as immediate emotional reality. An insult arrives, meaning is assigned instantly, and reaction follows automatically. The Stoic interrupts this process between the external event and the emotional reaction. Stoicism inserts analysis. An insult is no longer automatically treated as damage. It becomes information. This creates psychological distance, and distance weakens emotional compulsion. The average person reacts to the meaning they immediately assign. The Stoic examines whether the meaning deserves acceptance at all. Modern cognitive psychology mirrors this idea. Emotional reactions are shaped less by events themselves and more by the interpretations attached to them. The Stoic therefore treats emotional control as perceptual control, not suppression. Interpretation. This is why Stoic calmness often appears unnatural during conflict. Most people operate through rapid emotional reciprocity. One person provokes, the other reacts. Stoicism breaks the expected sequence, and once predictable emotional patterns disappear, another hidden mechanism becomes visible. Provocation depends on predictability. Chapter 4: Why provocation depends on predictability. Pancro only works when reactions are predictable. Most conflict follows unconscious behavioral loops. One person provokes, the other reacts. The cycle reinforces emotional access. Over time, predictable emotional responses create leverage. A reactive person becomes psychologically manageable because their behavior can be influenced through emotional stimulation. The Stoics understood that many conflicts are sustained not by truth, but by reaction dependency. One person seeks emotional movement, the other unknowingly provides it. Stoicism disrupts this loop through refusal of automatic participation, not emotional suppression. Not silence for appearance, but deliberate interruption of unconscious reaction. This creates uncertainty inside the interaction, and uncertainty changes power dynamics immediately. Predictable people are easier to manipulate. Psychologically restrained people are harder to emotionally engineer. A reactive individual continuously reveals emotional triggers, insecurities, and behavioral patterns. Emotional restraint removes those access points. This is why manipulative personalities often become frustrated around emotionally disciplined individuals. Manipulation requires reliable emotional access. Stoicism gradually removes that access, and once emotional predictability disappears, a deeper issue begins to surface beneath conflict itself. The hidden role of ego in defending respect. Chapter 5. The hidden ego behind defending respect. Many people believe they are defending dignity during conflict. Psychologically, they are often defending identity attachment. The ego depends heavily on external recognition. Approval stabilizes self-image. Respect protects identity. Because of this, contradiction can feel psychologically threatening far beyond its actual significance. A dismissive comment becomes more than language. It becomes perceived destabilization. The Stoic interprets this differently. The Stoic asked a difficult question. If another person's words can instantly destabilize identity, was that stability genuine to begin with? This changes the entire interpretation of emotional defensiveness. The issue is no longer the insult itself. The issue becomes dependence on external validation. This is why Stoic calmness often unsettles emotionally reactive individuals. Calmness signals independence from immediate social approval. The Stoic does not require emotional retaliation in order to preserve internal continuity. Modern social psychology consistently shows that individuals become more emotionally reactive when self-worth depends heavily on external evaluation. Stoicism attempts to reduce that dependency, not by denying emotion, but by reducing unconscious attachment to social recognition. The Stoic therefore remains calm not to appear superior, but because emotional chaos is interpreted as surrender of internal governance, and this leads directly into the Stoic interpretation of conflict itself. Chapter 6. Conflict as a test of internal structure. Stoicism treats conflict diagnostically. Pressure exposes structure. Insults expose attachment. Provocation exposes emotional dependency. This is why Stoics paid close attention to reactions during conflict. Pressure reveals psychological organization with unusual accuracy. Under normal conditions, people can perform composure socially. Under pressure, unconscious structure becomes visible. A person may claim confidence. Conflict reveals whether that confidence depends on external approval. A person may claim independence. Provocation reveals whether emotional stability remains vulnerable to outside influence. Most individuals attempt to control conflict externally first. The Stoic reverses the priority. Internal governance comes first, because from the Stoic perspective, the greatest vulnerability is not being insulted. It is becoming psychologically governed by the insult. This changes the purpose of calmness entirely. Calmness becomes more than emotional restraint. It becomes evidence of internal organization. A person capable of remaining psychologically stable under pressure demonstrates something socially significant. Their internal state cannot be easily dictated by temporary external conditions. This creates a form of authority fundamentally different from dominance. Dominance attempts to control others. Internal governance reduces the need to. Chapter 7. The final Stoic interpretation of respect. Modern culture usually defines respect externally through status, recognition, social treatment. Stoicism defines it differently. For the Stoic, respect begins with authority over perception, judgment, and emotional response. Without this internal authority, external respect becomes psychologically addictive because emotional stability starts depending on constant validation from other people. This creates vulnerability. Anyone capable of controlling emotional reaction gains temporary influence over behavior. The Stoics understood this clearly. This is why Stoics rarely lose composure during conflict. Not because they feel nothing, but because they refuse to surrender internal governance to temporary emotional conditions. The Stoic does not seek victory through emotional domination. The objective becomes preservation of internal autonomy. The insult may still exist. The provocation may still occur. That emotional ownership no longer transfers automatically to the external world. This is why calmness during conflict is frequently misunderstood. Emotionally impulsive individuals often interpret restraint as weakness, because they measure power through visible reaction. Stoicism measures power differently. A person who controls another person's emotions may influence behavior temporarily. But a person who governs their own mind becomes psychologically difficult to manipulate at all, and throughout history, that form of internal independence has consistently appeared unsettling to people who rely on emotional access for control.